discovered that music has the power to heal, but it also can create connections and understandings between people that can't be created otherwise. Being involved in music means dedicating his time to sharing it with others around you, and leads to a passion in mastering something so that he can share and have others enjoy it too. We also have Nina Iorik, and she's related to someone at the school, I believe, yeah? We won't tell you who. They might share the same last name, but Nina is an outstanding 14-year-old pianist. She lives in Seattle. She started her musical journey at the age of 9 and currently studies with Professor Nino. You're going to say this last name wrong. Can you say it for us? Oh, yeah. Okay. Nina combines her piano playing with harpsichord studies under Dr. Wyatt Smith, and she's also a student of the Seattle Chamber Music Academy. She has performed numerous times at Ben Arroyo Hall and other concert venues. Nina is a continual player at the Early Music Youth Academy, which is part of the Seattle Historical Arts for Kids. Nina is also a young composer, writes classical solos and duets for different instruments. As an addition to studies, Nina is an active member of several musical non-profit organizations. She is regional co-director at Back to Bach International Music Society and director of education at 2 Pacific Northwest student-based musical nonprofits, Conchord Music, who she's representing today, and Project Click for diversity and accessibility for musicians. Nina has won many awards at regional and international competitions. She also takes part in music festivals in Europe and in the United States. Please join me in welcoming Nina and Kevin to EAS for their presentations today. Nina's presentation is titled Healing Harmonies, Music's Impact on Well-Being, and Kevin's presentation is titled Mindful Melodies, Music and Meditation for Stress Relief.
Kevin and I are members of Conchord Music, a local student-led nonprofit organization aiming to promote mental health through music. We're very honored to be here at EAS and share with you our presentation, Healing Harmonies and Mindful Melodies. Now, before we begin our presentation, I wanted to state our key objective for today. As the heading states, we hope that by the end of this presentation, you will recognize music's impact on our mental health through playing an instrument. And we will also discuss the science behind common music-related phenomena, such as the Mozart effect, and ways classical music can help boost our focus and help us work on daily activities. All right, so how does playing a musical instrument affect our mental health? One of the ways we can improve it is by playing a musical instrument. And there's actually a lot of science going on behind the scenes. So how many of you guys play a musical instrument? Yeah, that's quite a few people. Well, playing a musical instrument requires amazing coordination, which means collaboration between the arms, hands, and fingers. And so the left and right hemispheres of our brain are responsible for coordination. So with practicing a musical instrument comes better coordination and more strength in our brain's hemispheres. So for example, I play the piano. If I have a difficult passage in my right hand, the left side of my brain controls that passage. But if I play the same passage in my left hand, the right side of my brain will control that. Now I'll show you guys some pictures later on of these different parts of the brain. Now, according to research done in various top universities, such as UPenn, playing a musical instrument also improves our fine motor skills. And this can be noticed in the fine work required for our fingers to play. So the part of our brain that controls fine motor function is called the cerebellum, and it also controls balance when we walk. So it's quite an important part of our brain. And playing an instrument allows for our cerebellum to function. And so playing it for an extended period of time will, as we've learned, enhance our fine motor skills, and therefore improve our cerebellum's function. Now, the next thing that I wanted to talk about is hormones. Have you guys ever heard of dopamine or endorphins? Yeah. So dopamine is basically a chemical substance that acts like a messenger in the body. And it's a hormone that is associated with pleasurable activities. So it's produced during activities like meditating, going shopping, and even eating a good meal. And so listening to music helps our hypothalamus, a part in the center of our brain that helps make hormones. It helps our hypothalamus make dopamine, and therefore helps us feel good about ourselves when we listen to music. And the hypothalamus also makes endorphins, which are a very similar type of hormone that is also associated with pleasure. Now, endorphins can be produced while playing an instrument. So our summary and key takeaways is that playing and listening to music has positive effects on mental well-being. So if you guys play an instrument, keep going. And if you don't, I suggest you pick one up. Now, these are the pictures of the different parts of our brain. So if you can read the tiny text, the left hemisphere controls our logic skills, so it helps us solve math problems, things like that. And then the right side of our brain helps us express our creativity. So through the arts, for example, we can do art, dance, and play music, and that helps us control that. And then that is the cerebellum. As you can see, it's in the very back of our brain. And as I've mentioned before, it controls our motor movements and movements in general. All right, so I wanted to show you guys a video of how playing a musical instrument benefits your brain.
Did you know that every time musicians pick up their instruments, there are fireworks going off all over their brain? On the outside, they may look calm and focused, reading the music and making the precise and practiced movements required. But inside their brains, there's a party going on. How do we know this? Well, in the last few decades, neuroscientists have made enormous breakthroughs in understanding how our brains work by monitoring them in real time with instruments like fMRI and PET scanners. When people are hooked up to these machines, tasks such as reading or doing math problems each have corresponding areas of the brain where activity can be observed. But when researchers got the participants to listen to music, they saw fireworks. Multiple areas of their brains were lighting up at once as they processed the sound, took it apart to understand elements like melody and rhythm, and then put it all back together into unified musical experience. And our brains do all this work in the split second between when we first hear the music and when our foot starts to tap along. But when scientists turn from observing the brains of music listeners to those of musicians, the little backyard fireworks became a jubilee. It turns out that while listening to music engages the brain in some pretty interesting activities, playing music is the brain's equivalent of a full-body workout. The neuroscientists saw multiple areas of the brain light up, simultaneously processing different information in intricate, interrelated, and astonishingly fast sequences. But what is it about making music that sets the brain alight? The research is still fairly new, but neuroscientists have a pretty good idea. Playing a musical instrument engages practically every area of the brain at once, especially the visual, auditory, and motor cortices. And as with any other workout, disciplined, structured practice in playing music strengthens those brain functions, allowing us to apply that strength to other activities. The most obvious difference between listening to music and playing it is that the latter requires fine motor skills, which are controlled in both hemispheres of the brain. It also combines the linguistic and mathematical precision in which the left hemisphere is more involved, with the novel and creative content that the right excels in. For these reasons, playing music has been found to increase the volume and activity in the brain's corpus callosum, the bridge between the two hemispheres, allowing messages to get across the brain faster and through more diverse routes. This may allow musicians to solve problems more effectively and creatively in both academic and social settings. Because making music also involves crafting and understanding its emotional content and message, musicians often have higher levels of executive function, a category of interlinked tasks that includes planning, strategizing, and attention to detail, and requires simultaneous analysis of both cognitive and emotional aspects. This ability also has an impact on how our memory systems work. And indeed, musicians exhibit enhanced memory functions, creating, storing, and retrieving memories more quickly and efficiently. Studies have found that musicians appear to use their highly connected brains to give each memory multiple tags, such as a conceptual tag, an emotional tag, an audio tag, and a contextual tag, like a good internet search engine. So how do we know that all these benefits are unique to music, as opposed to, say, sports or painting? Or could it be that people who go into music were already smarter to begin with? Neuroscientists have explored these issues, but so far they have found that the artistic and aesthetic aspects of learning to play a musical instrument are different from any other activity studied, including other arts. And several randomized studies of participants who showed the same levels of cognitive function and neural processing at the start found that those who were exposed to a period of music learning showed enhancement in multiple brain areas compared to the others. This recent research about the mental benefits of playing music has advanced our understanding of mental function, revealing the inner rhythms and complex interplay that make up the amazing orchestra of our brain.
So that was our video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And let's present this again. All right. So now,
Hi, my name's Kevin, and I'll be talking about how music affects different parts of the brain. Okay, so first we have a few pictures of the brain as we can see on the screen. And the first thing we'll be looking at is the amygdala. So the amygdala processes emotions and is strongly activated by music in the body, particularly music that evokes strong emotions and reactions like joy, pain, or sadness. Another part of the brain that is also affected by music is the hippocampus, which is associated with memory in the human body. It can trigger memories and tied to specific songs or musical experiences, making them a powerful tool for recalling memories from long ago. Another part is the nucleus accumbens, which is known for its role in reward and pleasure. It's activated when we experience musical pleasure or the feeling of excitement when playing an instrument or listening to music. Next, a part of the brain that is actually very important among our age is the prefrontal cortex. I'm sure some of you may have heard of it in your classes, talking about how teens have not yet developed a prefrontal cortex, making it hard for us to make decisive decisions in time. But playing a musical instrument or even just listening to music is responsible to make decision-making more strong and have more social behaviors among friends. Music can activate the prefrontal cortex and helps regulate mood. The next thing we'll be talking about is the cerebellum. As we can see in the chart on the bottom of the brain, it coordinates motor control in the body. Playing a musical instrument increases body movement and synchronizes the body, which increases control and precision. Another part of the brain is the temporal lobe, which processes auditory information and language, helps identify and differentiate different types of melodies and harmonies. Musical training enhances the language abilities by improving the brain's ability to process sounds and lip movement. Now, I'll be talking about a specific example on how music actually benefits the brain. And here we can see a study on Alzheimer's patients. The Alzheimer's disease is a brain disorder that gradually destroys memory and thinking skills. It's the most common cause of dementia in older adults. It makes it hard to retain memory, do everyday tasks, and stay on track with time. Researchers have actually found that people affected by Alzheimer's disease retain memories of music far longer than names or words. When patients and caregivers interact with music together, it strengthens their bond. Patients have been seen instantly lighting up after hearing music, able to communicate when before they seem unreachable. So an example of this is Marty Kay, who was an 8-year-old patient of Alzheimer's who was forced to leave her home and live with caretakers. Marty's son, Adam Kay, played guitar for his mother every week for about 8 years. When he played music for her, he saw glimpses of old Marty coming back to life. Even when she could barely speak, she still whistled the melodies of songs she heard over 70 years ago. At this stage, Marty cannot be able to form any words or any memories, but somehow the pathway, the music melodies remain bright and clear.
Wasn't that such an inspiring story? Well, the second part of our presentation now is called Mindful Melodies. And so we'll be talking about the Mozart effect right now. Okay, so basically the Mozart effect is the theory that listening to Mozart's music causes a short-term improvement on the performance of certain kinds of cognitive tasks and processes. Think about it. Do you guys believe that the music of Mozart could do such magic? Well, this video will show you guys a little bit about the Mozart effect, what it is, and if it's real or not.
Has anyone ever told you?
Sorry, let me just open it up in another.
Has anyone ever told you that listening to classical music can make you more intelligent? If they have, they were probably referring to the Mozart effect, a theory which gained huge popularity in the mid-90s. But is it actually true? Let's find out. The idea that listening to classical music can make you more intelligent originates from a study conducted by Rauscher in 1993. 36 college students were each given 3 sets of standard IQ spatial reasoning tasks. These included tasks such as a paper folding and cutting test, where the student has to visualize the folds and cuts, and then choose the answer which shows how the paper would look if unfolded. Before these tests were taken, the students listened to either 10 minutes of Mozart's sonata for 2 pianos in D major, 10 minutes of a relaxation tape, or 10 minutes of silence. The results showed those who had listened to Mozart performed better on the tests, with an average score of 119, compared with 111 when listening to the relaxation tape, and 110 for those sitting in silence. In other words, listening to Mozart had increased their IQ scores by 8 to 9 points, compared with the other conditions. Although the researchers pointed out that this effect was only temporary, and that they only tested the students' spatial reasoning and not overall IQ, this did not stop the mass media from misinterpreting the results. Exaggerated claims that listening to classical music increased IQ spread throughout society, with companies quick to jump on the craze. CDs and other products, primarily targeted at children, were marketed as scientifically proven ways to increase intelligence. In 1998, the governor of Georgia even added $105,000 to the state budget to provide every newborn child with a CD or tape of classical music, even though the original and subsequent studies had never even tested the effects on children. The Mozart effect became so well known that a 2003 survey of psychology students revealed that 73% believe that listening to Mozart will enhance your intelligence. The 2004 survey further showed the extent of its popularity, with over 80% of Americans admitting they were familiar with the theory. But is the Mozart effect even real? Several studies have been conducted attempting to repeat the original findings, with variable success. A meta-analysis of 39 studies concluded that although listening to Mozart did have a positive effect on spatial task performance compared to sitting in silence, the effects were actually quite small, only 1 to 2 IQ points, and lasting only an hour or less. Interestingly, those who listen to other types of music produce the same effects as listening to Mozart, indicating that there is nothing unique about Mozart or classical music, but rather it is the short-term arousal produced by the music which temporarily increases performance on the spatial reasoning tasks. So, if you need to temporarily boost your spatial reasoning skills, listening to your favourite music beforehand, whether that's Mozart or Metallica, may give you a slight advantage. However, a sugary snack or some caffeine could be just as effective. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so what did you guys learn from the video? Yeah?
That all music can help you with your spatial reasoning function.
Yeah, it can. What about you?
That when people hear something good, they don't want to hear back. They just want to hear the better things.
Yeah, anyone else? Okay. Yes, so let's go back to our presentation. So how I understand the Mozart effect is that listening to a little bit of music before, let's say, taking a test, it will help you do maybe slightly better, or it might give you a little more focus, but it doesn't have that much of a drastic effect. Okay. And now I wanted to show you guys the video of myself playing a piece of Mozart, his Piano Concerto number 21. And I'll talk a little bit about it after you watch the video. So it's going to be about like 6 minutes from the piece that I'll show you guys. And yeah.
As I'm in the midst of applying for residency right now, wish me luck, Grammarly has again been a lifesaver with my application and helping me write my personal.
I was playing alone. It's called a cadenza. So basically, a cadenza is a part of a concerto where the soloist gets to play on their own completely without the orchestra. It's kind of, during Mozart's time, it was actually a kind of way for the soloists to show off their technical skills and abilities. And it was usually, during Mozart's time, it was improvised by the performer themselves. So not only did they have to play something of their own, they also had to improvise it on the spot. So that was a pretty difficult thing to do, in my opinion. But I played a cadenza that was written by another composer, not Mozart. So, yeah. And now we'll have our live performance today with Kevin, and he'll talk a little bit about his instrument.
So I'll be doing a live performance of my instrument called erhu. It is commonly known as the Chinese violin, and I'll be playing a fast-paced piece called Galloping Steeds.
as we're coming to an end with our presentation, I wanted to talk a little bit about who we are as Conchord Music and what we do as an organization. So we are a student-led nonprofit aiming to promote mental health through music. And we acknowledge the fact that music connects communities in a unique and powerful way. And we hope you notice the impact of music on our mental health through the real-life examples that we shared with you today, through the videos you watched, and through the live performance that you heard. So we have had over 20 performances for 9 senior communities in the last 2 years of our organization's existence. And we've also had a performance for autistic children in September. It was a wonderful experience for those who participated in the performance. And then we also have a partnership with NAMI Seattle, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And here are some pictures from our past events. Yeah, feel free to take a look. Yeah.
So if any of you want to join Conchord Music, you can go on the internet and search Conchord, which is CONCHORD music.org, or you can just talk to us after.
Well, I think that's about it for our presentation today. So now it's time for questions. Yeah. Yeah.
How long have you guys been playing your instrument?
So I've been playing my instrument, the piano, since I was 5. But, yeah.
I've been playing erhu since I was 4, so about 10 years.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like any YouTube channel you can subscribe to?
Yeah, so Conchord has a YouTube channel. You can find more information about us on the website that Kevin said. And then you have a YouTube channel. Yeah.
I also have a YouTube channel called Sir Kevin Zhang.
Yeah.
Other than the instruments you play, do you play anything else?
Yeah, so I also play the harpsichord, which is this like prehistoric version of the piano, although it's not exactly a version, it's a completely different instrument.
And I also played the cello since I was 11.
Yeah.
Can you give us more information about the art? It's quite new. How is it different from the regular violin?
So the erhu is commonly known as the Chinese violin, but it's more unique because it has 2 strings and can reach basically the same octaves as the violin. So just using 2 strings.
Yes.
How many hours?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, so I practice about 3 to 4 hours a day.
I usually practice around 1 hour.
Yeah.
So have you guys thought about, I know you're young, but like have you thought about like where you want to go with this? Like do you want to continue to pursue music when you're older, like, you know, music schools like Berkeley, Juilliard, or do you want to maybe pursue mental health or maybe a little bit of both? Have you thought about that yet?
So I'm planning to do music performance.
That mic just turned off.
Yeah, just turn on.
Might be out of battery.
I think I did something. Yeah.
You can
Sorry.
Fireworks go up inside the microphone.
Hello?
Yeah.
So I'll probably be maybe a combination of both because music is like very important and also mental health too, so I'll probably be a mix of both.
Yeah, any more questions? Yes.
Do you guys feel like the mental health benefits for you are when, like, because you play so often, when do you feel the most benefit? Is it like in practice or performance or?
Probably for me, it's probably during performance because I get to see the reactions of the audience to my music, and I'm always very inspired.
Same thing as Nina, but also when I start playing a new piece, because I maybe I really wanted to play for a long time, and when you finally get to play it, it's really inspiring and exciting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Do you guys ever get like sick of it sometimes?
Sick of it?
Play a lot every day.
Not really, no.
Maybe like once in a while, go to my parents.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do. It's a piece by Chopin, if you know the composer. Yeah, one of my favorites.
So for the art was probably that Galloping Steeds because it's very exciting, and for cello maybe one of like Elgar cello concertos because it has a combination of melody and fast pace.
Yes,
What are you guys' favorite songs?
favorite songs. Yeah, so one of my favorite composers is actually Rachmaninoff. He was a Russian composer, and one of his most famous pieces is his Piano Concerto No. 2. I love that piece, and I also like his cello sonata. Yeah.
Is there, you guys have more time to play another piece?
No pressure.
You could ask him to repeat the question if you didn't hear it or understand it.
I don't think we have.
I don't think there's time for another one, but they've got that YouTube channel you should check out.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for the kids who might want to or are playing the instruments you're playing right now?
I would say keep going and keep exploring the capabilities of your instrument, and definitely try to learn as much as you can from other people, and keep going. That's the most important.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So as like performing musicians, how do each of you handle like performing in front of people is stressful? What are some of the ways that you kind of handle the stress of, preparing for a performance and then kind of like the moments before performance?
So I usually set myself like a preparation routine before a performance. So like I have some special things that I do before that really help me prepare, so I don't feel as stressed anymore. And also just performing often in front of people is the best way to cope with it.
At first, when I first started, yes, I had a bit of stress when I went on stage, but over time, when you perform so much, it just you become used to it, and I usually just stare off into the distance as the audience is there.
Can you just go in more detail about maybe what does your preparation look like? Like, give the kids some ideas about that. Like, how do you prepare, and like, what do you actually do? What are some things you come in to do?
Well, me before a performance, I like to sleep. Yeah, just get some energy in. I think it's definitely good to also like eat a good meal, have some water, basic things, so you have more energy.
I usually just drink water and try to stay calm, and I also like to try to keep my hands warm because that's really important when trying to perform.
Yeah, so usually for that I wear like gloves or hand warmers because my hands get cold really quickly. Yeah, I think there's a hand over there. Playing another instrument. Well, I guess I have, yeah, like I've played the cello before as well, so I think like returning to it at some point just for fun would be really cool.
For me, I actually really enjoyed cello and arco, so I haven't really thought much about any other instruments.
Yes.
What's the largest audience you ever played in front of?
I think it was like 500 people. Yeah, 500. Yes.
So like as classically trained musicians, do you ever think about like venturing into like pop music or like because so many bands are incorporating like strings and horns and things into their music. Is that a venue you ever want to go down, or?
I personally haven't ever thought about it.
Yeah, I've actually played a few pop music, for example, the theme song from Godfather and a lot of movie songs, just to test it and try it.
Any more questions? Oh, yes.
Do you play with like the Conchord music people in a concert or just
Yeah, so we play with Concord during concerts. We usually have like every couple of weeks we have some kind of event at a senior home usually, and so we have the opportunity to perform there with some other members of our organization. Yes.
What is a challenge you've had to overcome while playing your instruments?
I think for me it was just learning as much repertoire as I could and enhancing my technique definitely. So when I was younger, I think when I was around 10 years old, I had to start learning a lot more music and start playing a lot more pieces, which I've never done before. So, yeah.
Some challenges include once you play a song for a long time, it becomes, as my teachers sometimes say, a plateau when you don't really improve much, but you just stay the same. So it can become a little frustrating, but
Yes.
What made you think about making making organizations of like Concord or nonprofit to like for fun? Right? What made you think about this, and are there any inspirations?
Wait, what was the question again?
What made you think of joining Concord, and do you have any inspiration to do that?
Oh, so how did I join Concord? Oh, so the president, Michelle, she reached out to me and she asked if I wanted to join, the mission. So Concord back then was still a very young organization, and so now we have quite a few members. So yeah.
President Michelle is actually my neighbor, so we live right next to each other, so she just asked me if I wanted to join, and I was just like, oh, shit.
How about inspiration, inspiring you? What's inspired you?
I think definitely like bringing joy to different communities, especially the senior communities. So with the other organization that I was with, Project Click, we also play sometimes at senior homes, and I had the opportunity to play for some dementia patients, so that was also a really cool experience. I just love to bring happiness to people, I think. Yeah. Yes?
I'm just curious because like both of you guys, when you're demonstrating playing, you don't use any music, like sheet music or anything. So do you have all of your pieces memorized? And how long does that stay with you?
For me, most of my pieces are memorized. Because I'm a pianist, we usually memorize our pieces. And it usually stays with memory for as long as I play the piece, and maybe a couple months after I've stopped working on it. But then it gradually starts to get out of memory. It's mostly in your muscle memory, but your brain sometimes doesn't remember it quite well.
I have most of my songs memorized too, but it's all about practicing it often, because after a few months, when you don't practice it, it just slowly disappears.
So a few months, okay, interesting, yeah.
Yes.
Are you skipping school right now?
What?
Are you skipping school right now?
Skipping school? Well, not really. I'm online school, so.
Yeah, but I think it's worth it to be here today.
Yes?
Do you do presentations like this normally?
Yeah, I do actually. Do you do presentations?
Yeah, well, I do debate, so it's more of refuting and just trying to think of things on the spot, but I also practice presentations when I have one.
Yes.
I'm very impressed by, I'm glad they brought up the presentation skills. That's one of the things we really try to work hard on here. Both of you have such great presence in your understand and relate and answer in detail. It's really awesome, so I appreciate that. You guys are awesome with that. Question for you. You spend a lot of time sitting down behind that piano. And Kevin, I'm not sure how much, it appears that you stand up when you do your work. But I'm just curious, do you guys have to balance any physicality with all of that time that appears to be downtime? Are you like burning calories, or I mean, how do you balance that?
Well, for me, the work is quite physical. Like if I spend hours working on something, often my whole body, like my upper body, is quite heavily involved in things. So I definitely get tired sometimes.
Same, because playing music, especially when you're trying to work hard on it, can actually be very physical as you're moving your fingers and arms, and sometimes I can break a sweat.
Yes.
How long does it take for you to memorize a new piece?
It depends on the piece, really. Some composers, I think, are easier to memorize than others because it just stays in your muscle memory. Like I'd say Mozart is pretty easy to memorize, but like Bach, for example, might not. For me, technically, like usually a couple of months to memorize it. Yeah. Okay. I think that's it for questions. Yeah, thank you so much for having us again. And it was our pleasure to be here.